OMG, after so many years of being away, the best pro wrestling podcast is back. Tony and Anthony G. Oh my gosh. I don't think we need to do any sort of like introduction. I think we can pretty much just do what we do and talk about pro wrestling.
Yeah, well, obviously just 1 second before we get into it. I think I need to I feel like we owe them some sort of explanation. Like they just feel like we just abandoned them on ship. Like it's not even on iTunes anymore. The OMGWrestling.com isn't even around. Like people are probably wondering what is going on with this. Like you keep going and you keep starting and booting and rebooting and what's going on. So I think we got to give them like sort of an explanation. It's not really a deep I don't know. Let's just say contractually we're obligated. We were working with Anchor.fm. Great company, by the way. Don't want to give them any guff there. But they actually had a different vision for the OMG Wrestling Show, and they wanted us to make our content for their app. And we were producing shorter, 10-minute type episodes every day for that app. And it just wasn't the right fit for us. And they actually decided, our contract just ended up running out at the end of 2017. So now in 2018, we're able to produce this show on a much wider, more free-form show. And before it was more like a wrestling review show, and it felt forced. Like we had to review Monday Night Raw, we had to review SmackDown or something like that. And that's not what we ever wanted to do. And I think Ago can agree. We don't want to just be another wrestling review show.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. And, I know a lot of people won't understand the whole thing of contracts and whatever, but when we first started OMG, we were pretty adamant about having a lot of control over our show. And, Anchor didn't really take that away from us. But of course, our vision kind of got shifted away. And I think it just makes a lot more sense for us to do what we do best. And this is, it's backed by popular demand. I get DMs and tweets all the time like, hey, what happened to OMG podcast? So I think, in 2018, we have a lot of great things happening on the channel, and of course the news videos, and of course the gameplays. But OMG Podcast has been a main staple for the last several years, and I'm glad it's finally back. And honestly, what a good week to come back, because there's so many things happening in pro wrestling right now. It's it's insane.
Yeah, and after the contract expired at the end of the year, I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do the OMG. It was kind of left like a sour taste. But there's just so much wrestling news, and it's so exciting to get into this. I want to just dive deep into this and get down to all the nitty gritty of pro wrestling, because there's some exciting things going on. And I think for the best of the professional wrestling business, I think things are on the uprise now again. I feel like we might actually be at a point where a boom period could happen again. I mean, we're in the midst of a boom period for pro wrestling, but I think we might be at a bigger boom based off of the current status and how things went, and we'll get all into that. We have a lot of stuff going on with Impact Wrestling. We got New Japan to talk about. We got WWE. We just have so much to talk about. So I don't really want to talk too much more about the contract negotiation and all that stuff. So it's just for you guys to know, we're going to be coming every Tuesday. We'll have the OMG podcast, and we're going to get it on iTunes. We don't have it yet because we kind of there's just so much we wanted to talk about. It's going to be on YouTube right now, but it will be up on iTunes within moments, probably by the weekend. Whenever this episode goes up, it'll be up by then. This is prefaced. We'll preface this by saying this is recorded before the first episode of the Mixed Match Challenge on Facebook, so we don't know what that is. This is before SmackDown, so we don't know really what happens on that. So, and again, that's not really our focus. We're not going to be a wrestling review show, so none of that really matters to us right at this moment. So, woo! Yeah. All right. Ango, we got a big show on our hands here with Impact Wrestling. Well, we'll start off there because you were known as that. What was your gimmick back in the day with anti-TNA?
Bro, 2012, 2013, I was doing OMG podcast. I don't even know how to explain it. At certain points, I was just very, very negative towards Impact. I wouldn't even say anti-TNA because I would show love when deserved. But, that was a whole different era too, man. Since then, since that whole gimmick kind of started, look how many times Impact has changed. From TNA to Impact to Global Force to Impact Wrestling. I mean, it's just gone through so many changes. But I'm actually glad that we're talking about Impact today because normally I would sit here and trash the company, but thankfully we're starting to see a really positive change, and I think a lot of that starts with their president, Ed Nordholm. I think that's his name. I'm not really too sure. He's like my new Garbuick, right?
John Garbage, Ed Norlam.
John Garbage, man.
I think every time you hear me say his name, I always pronounce it different. Like Ed Norlam, Ed Norholm, Ed Anthem. Let's call him Ed Anthem from now on.
Yeah.
So the president of Ed Anthem Network, John Gerberg, is no longer around, right? He's gone. He's out.
Yeah.
Dixie's
he was the
out.
last piece. Yeah,
Jarrett's
he was the last
out.
piece of the Dixie leadership, and he's gone.
Remember when he tried to sell the TNA tape library to WWE just so he could get a job back? What a time for professional wrestling. So he's out. And now Ed Nordholm, the Anthem guy, who was basically enemy number one for fans of the Hardy Boys, right? We could probably say he was probably like the guy. Hey, Ed Nordholm, he's a scumbag. He won't release the broken trademark. Well, the trademark has now been released. There was a photo posted on Twitter of Matt Hardy and Ed Nordholm shaking hands, and Matt Hardy now owns the broken trademark. Whatever agreement they have come to, we don't know the terms of that yet, I don't think, unless you have any update that I don't know about, Ango. But I think they've just decided, you know what, you can have the terms, and maybe I don't know. I don't know what the terms come to, but I think it's good for Matt Hardy being able to do that broken character officially.
Yeah, I mean, I have a huge theory as far as Impact goes, and we'll kind of talk about it within the upcoming minutes. But one thing that we had to do kind of consider with Ed Nordholm, like, he kind of came into Impact and immediately became the villain after, the previous leadership, the previous management team were already the villains. So, him kind of going into a situation, we saw how Billy Corgan got worked out, Dixie Carter got worked out, and it was just there were so many issues with that. And it was a very sour taste when he came in, and it was like, okay, this guy is restricting the Hardys from taking their gimmick to WWE. So, no, we don't have, additional details, and of course that could kind of be, somewhat disheartening because you don't know if maybe they came up with an agreement where maybe the Hardys paid for it, whatever the case may be. But, Ed seems like a smart guy by releasing that trademark. And I think deep down inside, when I get into my theory, I think he is going to be the guy that completely transforms Impact Wrestling for the good. So the gimmick itself wasn't anything special, in my opinion. As you can see with WWE, they've kind of gone away from the whole broken thing anyways. They just call him Woken Matt Hardy. So it is what it is. But it is really funny that, after so long, after all that money being spent on legal fees, he finally got rid of it. And
I think a lot of the credit. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if that's like a PR move as well, because realistically, how many people were hating on Impact just for that reason. Like, the product was actually pretty good too. Like, there were some good matches happening, and of course, everybody's like, no, F this guy, like F that owl. We do not care about your product now because you're holding back, two very creative superstars.
I know exactly what is going on here, and I will tell you in a second after we get past this whole broken trademark thing. So basically, I think Ed Nordholm, he got a bad rap here, right? So we heard Billy came in, and then Jarrett came in. I think this was more of like not him per se. It was more of like who's going to be like the figurehead of Impact Wrestling. Is it going to be Jeff Jarrett? Is it going to be Billy? And I think it was more of like a deal with Billy and Jarrett who should be upset, not Ed Nordholm, you know what I mean? Behind the scenes, Billy wanted to come in, but then they wanted Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett had the history of TNA, and he was going to bring in Global Force Wrestling, and then we all saw how that went down. And now Jarrett went to rehab and all that, and now I think when Jarrett came in, he brought in Scott D'Amore, and then Scott D'Amore took over as what I can't remember the exact title.
Just creative, I think.
He's like a head of creative or something, or like VP or something like that. And then what happened was they actually got Don Callis. If you're not familiar with Don Callis, he is actually part of New Japan Pro Wrestling on commentary. There's a lot that he actually did with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which we'll get into in a second. And now him and Scott D'Amore are like 50-50 of this company with Ed Nordholm, who's like the figurehead, who's like the main honcho, and then they are going to run the day-to-day business of Impact Wrestling, doing the booking, creative, all that stuff, and trying to make it the best product that it could possibly be. And I think this is the right move for Impact Wrestling because Don Callis is probably the guy behind the broken trademark being released, because all the stuff that I've heard about Don Callis and what he's been saying, it's all kind of logic. With him, it's not like, let's hold a grudge, let's do this, let's do that. He's like, does this make sense? No, it doesn't. So why are we doing it? That's basically his philosophy in pro wrestling. And it's smart. It's simple. It's like, okay, why are we doing six-sided ring? Which is one of the things we have on our list here to talk about. But one of his things is, why are we doing six-sided ring? What are the benefits? What are the pros and what are the cons? It looks cool. All right. But the talent hates it and it hurts the talent. So there's no reason to do it. And so they went back to four-sided ring. And that's just one of the things that he's doing, is he's looking at this company and saying, why are we holding on to this broken trademark? Yeah, we can probably work out a deal where we can use the old footage and make money off of that. But past that, what does it matter to us, really? That's kind of where I see it going. Like, there's probably just a bunch of legal fees costing Impact Wrestling a bunch of money for no reason. Don Callis comes in. I'm sure it was him. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 85 to 90% sure that he's the reason that the broken trademark was dropped. Well,
let's just be honest, though. I think for so many years, TNA, Impact Wrestling, whatever, has always been compared to WWE. And that's because, and realistically, it starts with Sting and Hulk Hogan, you know, when they were there, and Eric Bischoff and those guys, like that era of TNA, it was always becoming like a competitor to WWE. And there was always that stigma that stood with that. And I think Scott D'Amore and Don Callis are kind of the guys that are like, listen, like, why do we need to compete with WWE? Why do we have to be a competitor in this professional wrestling world? Why can't we be a company that is open to everybody, and that's just an alternative product? It's like Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground was not a competitor to Impact, ROH, or WWE. Regardless of what anybody says, it's a totally different production, you know? Therefore, people are actually, hey, like, I like Lucha Underground. It's pretty cool to watch. It's, you know, they're not taking digs at WWE. They're not doing this. It doesn't come off as like, you know, as this like malicious, like intentionally driven, like negative program. So when you see Impact and you see Don Callis kind of come out and say, like, you know, kind of like the Grand Championship. He talked about the Grand Championship, you know, like, this is a dumb idea. Rounds in pro wrestling, it just doesn't make sense. He's one of those guys that's like, listen, let's have a good wrestling product. Let's not worry about what, you know, MMA, UFC branches and all these different companies do. Like, let's just do what we do. Let's make ourselves better, and let's not focus on being different or trying to compete. I think that's the vision here. And I think you could see that with some of the talent that's been released and some of the talent they're signing. I think right now, Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, I think they have a vision for TNA Impact Wrestling that's going to change the overall perception of fans. And like I said, I have my theory, but I'm going to hold on to that for just a couple more minutes.
Well, that has been like a problem with TNA Wrestling, is that they had the one thing that set them apart, and that was the X Division, right? They did the X Division, and then they had some matches that were either good or bad. I mean, we had the Lethal Lockdown match, which was pretty good. We had the Ultimate X match, was a pretty good success too. So those are like creatively good, like, ideas that they can use in the future. Like, okay, these are our ideas. These are good. And then they had some stinkers. I mean, they still have Feast or Fired, which is a good idea. But then they have like those ones that didn't hit so much. And they did like the reverse battle royal. They did some ladder match stuff that was like, you got to hang the belt up, King of the Mountain match, which is okay, but I don't know. That's another day, another discussion. But that's just been their thing. And I think the Grand Champion falls under one of those things where they're like, how can we be different? Not like, is this a good idea? It's like, how can we be different? As well as the Six Sides. That was just another thing. They're like, with Jarrett, wasn't it when Jarrett came back, they brought back the six-sided ring, I believe?
Yeah. When Jarrett came back. And, you know, one thing I do want to mention about the six-sided ring, too, and I really have to just be pretty blunt here. Six-sided ring, back in, like, 2004, 2005, whenever it came out. I think it was, like, 05, 06. When they started going that route, and they were on, like, Fox Sports, and then, of course, they go on Spike TV. You know, I just remember watching Feast or Fired in, like, 2008. That was Final Resolution. I always forget who won the final briefcase. But, like, I remember watching this pay-per-view match, and I remember thinking, wow, this six-sided ring is just, like, really special. It's really cool. It's really different. And more specifically, if you watch that Feast or Fire match in 2008, you can watch that product and realize, wow, this is nothing like WWE. And that's what made it great. And then you kind of fast forward for so many years, and then you actually realize, okay, it's not the 6-sided ring that really made them look different. It was just the fact that it was a really good match, and the crowd was into it, and the product was hot. And I think at the end of the day, Don Callis kind of realized, yeah, it looks different, but it's not doing anything special for the product. People aren't watching Impact just because they have a 6-sided ring, So I definitely could see where that 6-sided ring is just not even worth it. Now, my whole thing with the whole branding of like Impact in the ring, obviously we saw some of those screenshots, with the Twitch logo and the Anthem logo.
Before we talk about Twitch and Impact Wrestling, I want to let you guys know about the Tony Pizza Guy shop. If you go to shop.tony.pizza, we have t-shirts available right now. We're actually currently working on hoodies and long sleeve shirts as well for this winter season. I know it's a very chilly time, so we wanted to make sure that you guys could have some hoodies that are awesome. Again, we have 3 designs up right now, and we're working on a whole bunch more. If you want to support this podcast, go to shop.tony.pizza.
I still hate that freaking Anthem logo. I really do, man. So whether it's 6-sided or 4-sided ring, that Anthem logo it's got to go from the ring apron, man. It's got to go. It's got to leave.
I think that they're trying to brand it properly, and it is what it is, right? They probably trademarked that logo, and they have to use it for whatever length of time the trademark goes, because trademarking does cost a pretty penny, so they went to the trademark office, they got this logo trademark, whatever. So that's what's going to be on there. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. I would never incorporate like the network into my logo unless, I guess the network owns Impact. But again, it's not like Titan Sports owns WWE, right? Isn't that correct? I believe so, or it was at one point called Titan Sports. Anyway, so it's not like they had like Titan Sports all over their aprons. It was just like WWE, So I agree that logo is kind of stupid, but as you mentioned, there was a Twitch logo on the side, and then that was a lot of speculation. There was what's the deal here? If you're going to put the Twitch logo on there, what's the big overall picture with Twitch and going forward here with Impact Wrestling? Now, I had said that they were going to, like, before I heard the actual official announcement, my thoughts were that they were going to stream on Impact Wrestling. They're going to put their shows on Twitch. They're going to do them live on Twitch, and then they're going to do their pay-per-views on Twitch to Twitch subscribers. That was my concept for Impact Wrestling. They actually came out with a different concept, and I kind of wanted to do a little rebuttal here back and forth with you, Angle, because I know that you're not, I don't say you're against Twitch, but you're not the biggest fan of it, or maybe you are now after they announced a streaming service and what they're going to be doing with Twitch. But do we want to just kind of rattle off what they're going to be doing?
Yeah. So, and you're absolutely right. I'm not a hater with Twitch, by the way. This is a really unique announcement. And I do want to kind of give this disclaimer. Like, for me as a creator, I prefer broadcasting on YouTube. That's just the way I feel as a creator. So looking at it from this way, of course, I would love to see, Impact Wrestling kind of do this with YouTube. But this might make me lean a little bit more towards Twitch because, well, Impact Wrestling announced actually today they are launching a 24/7 live channel on Twitch that will have exclusive original content, monthly live events, house shows, and they're going to actually have some extra Impact archive content. So in a way, it's kind of like the Global Force Wrestling Network, or whatever they're calling it, Global Wrestling Network, that they have on like Apple TV and Roku and everything. But there's a couple things I wanted to kind of jump into a little bit more in depth. So
yeah. Before you get in, I gotta ask you a question because I'm not familiar with the Global Wrestling Network. Yeah. I'm just, the only thing that I know to compare it to is the WWE Network, which I don't know if it's the same or not. But the question I have to ask you, on the Global Wrestling Network, do they have a live feature on there like WWE does, where you can click on air now? Do they have that on there?
They have it, but there's no live content.
I mean, so it's not like a 24/7 channel like WWE has their, like the on-air thing where they show like continuous programming. They don't have that on the Global Wrestling Network?
They do not, and that's the hard part here because you would kind of assume with that little slot that says live content, you would think that they have something live, or you would think that maybe they would post like some pay-per-views or something. That's actually not happened at all since I've subscribed to their GWN app.
Okay, I was just wondering because that's kind of so they don't have the live on the GWN, so the live version that they have is going to be on Twitch.
And that is kind of where I'm thinking maybe the GWN will produce like a live feed into the Twitch. I'm hoping maybe that's something they can do.
Okay.
Which obviously would be smart. Now, there's a couple things that they mentioned in their press release, including the monthly live events. So I'm not sure the monthly live events, like, you know, can we see pay-per-views on here? Is that a possibility? Or maybe like taping specials or something? Who knows? But one of the things that they mentioned was the channel will also feature lifestyle programming showcasing Impact Wrestling stars outside the ring, from diets and workouts to relationships and travel. So it kind of sounds like maybe they're going to divulge into a situation similar to like Total Divas or just some of these other, you know, network shows in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also says Twitch will also air Impact Wrestling's live event at WrestleCon in New Orleans, Louisiana, on Friday, April 6th at 9 p.m. And then other shows will include the following. Live Audio Wrestling, which was produced by the Fight Network. That's like a video podcast show. But now this is actually going to be produced and hosted by longtime Impact Wrestling announcer Jeremy Borash. So the two guys that were on the Live Audio Wrestling, I forget their names, but now they have something called Post Wrestling. They're kind of doing the same thing, just under a different name. So they left Fight Network, which is obviously also owned by Anthem.
The question I want to know, because one of my favorite parts of the law was when they would bring on Dave Meltzer to talk about pro wrestling. Do you think there's an opportunity for Jeremy Borash to bring on Meltzer and do kind of that stuff? Because that was, honestly, Dave Meltzer's opinion is always highly regarded. So it was kind of cool to hear him talk because he was always on the law. So you think they could probably bring him on as long with Jeremy Borash at some points at time?
Well, here's the answer to that question, because in this press release they actually say this show will also include special guest interviews, live calls, chat interaction, contests with prizes, and much more. So is this something where they bring in, you know, personalities and you know, analysts like Ango and TonyPizzaGuy and Dave Meltzer, or is this something where they bring in like Johnny Impact and Allie and Rosemary and Abyss, and they do live shows like that? Like, who knows? You know, it'd be really cool for them to bring in an analyst to give some sort of perspective. I know that's something that I've always kind of wanted to see with the pro wrestling company. So the fact that Impact is kind of taking control of Live Audio Wrestling, and it's going to be a weekly video podcast, like, I like that, especially if they're hiring. You know, I would definitely sign up for that.
Well, here, before you try to pitch yourself and sell yourself as a top analysis here, but I think this is good. It says that they're going to be covering all the latest news in all, it doesn't say in all, but I'm assuming all of professional wrestling. So if they can cover WWE, Impact Wrestling, Independent, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all that stuff, and put it all together, I think they will have a well-formatted show. And Jeremy Borash is perfect for this. He's got a great voice. I don't know if you remember this, but they used to do a show called WCW. I think it was called Reloaded. WCW Reloaded. Anyway, it was on the infancy of like internet live streaming and stuff. They did a live show on the internet. Jeremy Borash was like the guy who was WCW.com. And he was the one who was behind all these great ideas, and he was pushing for this to do like this live format show about wrestling and with WCW Reloaded. So now they have the law, and Jeremy Borash is perfect for it.
He's perfect.
I want them to be 100% unbiased to TNA while still promoting their brand, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yep.
I want them to be able to cover like all spectrums of professional wrestling and then kind of interweave it into Impact Wrestling when they want to. I think this will be great with the live calls, the chat interaction, the contest prizes, all that stuff, special guests, all that stuff. If they can just do a full, well-rounded live audio wrestling show where it's not like, here's Impact Wrestling and here's what happened last week on Impact, I don't want that. I want it to be just like, all right, so it's just Jeremy Borash doing his thing, talking with guys, doing stuff, and that's what I want. I don't want it to be an Impact show. I want it to be I know it's on the Impact Twitch channel, but I want it to be like something that's different than that, than an Impact post show or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this is where Impact kind of has the game on lock, and that's why I was really excited to hear about this announcement, because when you think about this specifically, right? Like Jeremy Borash, I think if you put him in WWE, like he is amazing, right? Like, I don't think there's any question about Jeremy Borash's talent, his dedication, his loyalty, things like that. Like, he's been an all-star. So Jeremy Borash probably might be a little bit biased towards Impact. I'm hoping like the production side of it tries to make it not look like that, because Jeremy Borash has been with TNA Impact for, I think, since the beginning. So yeah, I mean, like, I want to see Jeremy Borash do a good job. And like I said, if he's got an extra chair by him, I live in Detroit. Like, it's not that far from Toronto. I'm sure the drive can be pretty manageable. Which, by the way, you know, that is kind of what Impact is doing now. They have relocated. So just to kind of give you an idea, they are in Canada now. So hopefully that benefits them.
Okay. Also, Wednesday nights they're going to be doing the show for Impact Wrestling with Tyrus. You remember him from the Funkadactyls, the Funkasaurus. You remember Tyrus. Everybody remembers him. He's doing a show called Nuff Said. He's going to have a unique take on pro wrestling, politics, sports, and pop culture. I like the latter of all of them. Pop culture, I think when you get into politics and not the kind of talk you want with, but maybe it can be interesting. I think this is a good idea for Tyrus to kind of spread his wings. He's on Fox News right now. I think he was on Fox and Friends or something. I can't remember, but if he can get like one of these pop culture type shows to get, you know, video games and stuff like that kind of in there with the Twitch, you know, that runs right into Twitch with the pop culture and stuff like that. If they keep it more pop culture is what I'm saying, so that it can be more like at tune with Twitch and stuff.
Yeah. One quick note that I did want to point out, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about this and kind of just get like your perspective. Did you ever hear the story of why Tyrus left Impact? Originally,
I did not. What are the deets?
So I want to talk to you about this because I thought it's kind of messed up, you know. But basically, Tyrus and Jeff Jarrett, and of course, this is just what's been reported online. I don't have like insider info, but
right.
Essentially, Tyrus was like in the indie scene or whatever the case was, or he left Impact briefly, and then Impact had basically said, or basically, I'm sorry. So Tyrus had gone to Jeff Jarrett and didn't want to work with Jeff Jarrett apparently for Global Force Wrestling, and so when he was in talks with TNA, he told TNA like, "Hey, I'll come by." You know, whatever. And then because talks fell through with Jarrett, Impact was like, oh, you don't have to worry about Jarrett. And then sure enough, like 2 weeks later or something, Jarrett came to Impact. So he didn't want to work for Jarrett due to like the whole talks, the whole issues that he had with talks for like GFW. And of course, Impact had that issue. So he kind of lost the trust for Impact and he decided to break away because he didn't want to work for Jarrett. And of course, now he's back. So, you know, maybe lost in translation a little bit, but that's kind of the gist of the story. He didn't want to work for Jarrett. They told him, hey, Jarrett's not with us. And then sure enough, Jarrett shows up in like 2 weeks and he's working for Impact and no longer working for GFW or doing GFW. So, listen, Tyrus is a good host. I've seen him, you know, on Fox and Friends. I've seen him on TV and he obviously, he maybe doesn't look like a TV show host, but neither do I, but I think me and him would do really good on live audio wrestling. So.
Right, we get it. You want to work for Impact. We understand. No, actually, I think he would be great. I think he's got, like you said, he doesn't look like your typical host with the most, but he is like he's great on the mic. So
he offers a great perspective too.
Right. And like I said, he's known for Fox and Friends, so he might get a little political there, but I'm hoping we can keep it sports, wrestling, and pop culture would be better for Twitch kind of thing and stuff there. So that's interesting. Moving on for Thursday nights, we don't have anything on Tuesday nights planned right now for that, but that could obviously change whatever they want to do there. Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Josh Matthews host a mega cast with his irreverent second screen perspective of the flagship Impact Wrestling show Thursdays on Pop. So this is just your second screen experience. I'm hoping, like, the way that this sounds is that I don't want it to be like Mystery Science Theater or like Josh Matthew reacts to Impact. You know, like YouTube videos where
that's
people
what
react.
I'm getting from it, my friend.
That's what I don't.
Reaction video.
If they do like a second screen experience like WWE used to have, you know, when they go to commercial break, they show stuff backstage and you can continue on with the experience. Like, I would like that, but if it's Josh Matthew reacts to Impact Wrestling, I don't know if I want that. But we'll have to see. It's going to be pretty interesting what that actually show is. I don't know. I'm hoping it's something good, but it's kind of weird. Isn't Josh Matthews, is he still on commentary, or did they move him away from commentary?
He is still on commentary.
Okay.
He was. I mean,
as of currently, before the tapings, he was on commentary. So I'm not sure. I think during the tapings, no spoilers really, but he's got an on-screen role, really, I think, right? So
yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he's moved away from that, so he could do an on-screen role anyway. And then the programming will also have Impact Explosion. If you like Explosion, you got your Explosion. I've never even seen Explosion. That's like their 1 hour Impact. I think they had like a contract with some UK television network, so they had to produce Explosion or something. I don't know. Pay-per-view events on a second window. So that's a second. It says on a second window. So does that mean, is that a second screen experience? Not the main pay-per-view event.
That's the question mark. It's like they don't really have like too much detail, but I think eventually, once you break away from Pop TV, if this Impact Wrestling on Twitch really takes off, I expect all pay-per-views and all.
Yeah, and then they said 1,000 hours of industry names like Hogan, Flair, Sting, Angle, Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, AJ Styles, Mojo, Bobby Roode, and many more. So basically, I actually watched them on Twitch one day. They just randomly went live on Twitch, and I think you were working at the time, so I just tuned in, and it was like a what are those shows? Those TNA Legends things where they like take an hour of programming and make like a best of type thing together. They release them all on DVD, and some of them are on demand. That's what they were showing. So it's featuring some matches. Like I think Bobby Lashley was fighting somebody, and then AJ Styles and Kurt Angle maybe, or something like that. So they just kind of had a Legends thing on loop, and they just keep playing it. I think they were trying to test out their servers and see what the quality was going to be like, stuff like that. They didn't really announce it. They didn't have any branding. It was just like, okay, here it is. And so I think there was about like 120 people watching unannounced, so that was kind of cool. The people were chatting, and they were all and the chat was like trolling. So if they have to get that under control right away, is the trolling, because everybody in the chat was trolling, and people were writing like, "Oh, spoiler alert" and stuff like that, because it was all pre-recorded anyway, like from years ago. So it was just a bunch of trolls on the internet. So that's the one thing they're gonna have to deal with Twitch, is the chat and the trolls and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be dealing with a very hardcore crowd on Twitch, because it's such a niche. It's not like it's widely accessible, through all the streaming services and devices and things like that. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I think that's actually the part for me that I'm really excited about, because if you look at this press release, right, and you start reading about like Mondays and Tuesdays or Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, for me, like, producing the Slam and OMG Wrestling Podcast, like, this is a really good way to kind of gauge public interest, and for TNA specifically, Impact Wrestling, Monday live audio wrestling. I know it doesn't show the time, but that's something I'd want to tune into. I want to watch that, because, on a Monday, if I'm not at work, what am I doing? Probably nothing. So
right.
It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting, especially with the amount of talent they've signed recently as well. I think they've signed a lot of talent, and they've released a lot of talent.
Yeah. I do want to get into that. I want to just I was going to do like a comparison episode of like goods and bads with Twitch, but I'll kind of just read off what you had before we learned about the real deals between Twitch, and I'll just read off like kind of what you thought and what I thought. And so you thought that Impact has lost momentum, they damaged their reputation, and people might have given up on the product, so their viewership on Twitch might be low. My counter to that was they're taking steps to the right direction so they can help grow. They're partnering with Twitch, they can gain a new audience and stuff like that. Your thing was that Twitch is huge for games, but not much for pro wrestling. I know they're trying to grow for pro wrestling, but right now it's still a growing market, so it might not do as well. And then also Amazon doesn't have much experience with pro wrestling, so they may not have money or resources that Impact doesn't. But how much support is Amazon and Twitch actually going to give to Impact Wrestling and Amazon and stuff, and then their pro wrestling venture? So I don't know. I did say my counter to that was that Twitch does have a dedicated team for pro wrestling. people that work there that help run the live streams if they need it. I know that Twitch employees have gone out to AAA in Mexico and helped set up those live streams and make sure they run properly. Your biggest problem is the Apple TV thing. You think that no Apple TV app, and pro wrestling is traditionally on TV, so that's a big deal there. I came back and said that people can watch on the PC and mobile and the tablet, and they can also push them to their Apple TV via AirPlay, so there's that. The thing with Amazon, though, is they are exclusive to the Amazon Fire Stick and the Fire TV, so you can't get it anywhere else, which is kind of a bummer, but Amazon's got to get people to buy their devices, so that's why they did it that way. And the biggest problem I have here, which I kind of, before we get too deep into this and go on for hours about Impact Wrestling, I just think it's taken away from GWN. And I know now with this, they can earn money on subs and donations and stuff like that if they do that. But what are your thoughts here? Before we get with the rest of our Impact talk, what do you think of like this and GWN? Is this hurting GWN, the Global Wrestling
100%.
Network, or is it going to only make it stronger?
100%. The only difference that I can see with this is whether or not GWN can sign deals with other larger indie promotions. And they've had a couple. Don't get me wrong. They have Border City Wrestling. I think they have WrestleCade. They have a couple different indie promotions. Mm-hmm. If that's what they're looking at doing with GWN, that's fine. You know, but so far GWN has been branded Archive Impact, old school pay-per-views, TNA this, TNA that. Like, that's going to hurt the Twitch. Or the Twitch is going to hurt the GWN. Like, one or the other. It's kind of like the same thing. But for me, I've said this 1,000 times. This is why I want a Twitch app on Apple TV. I have DirecTV. Pop TV doesn't go HD. So for me, I can't watch Impact Wrestling in HD. With Twitch, I'll be able to watch in HD. Obviously, with GWN, if the content was on there, I'd be able to watch in HD as well. So having that Apple TV app would be really huge for me and probably millions of other people that are wrestling fans who want to sit down in their bed and watch it on their TV.
Well, let's say they start doing more pay-per-views, right? They do more pay-per-views. We know that we have a show coming up, which I guess, spoiler alert, nobody really cares really, but they have Impact Redemption is their big show in April coming up. Yep. They just taped all their tapings leading up to that, I think, or before another set of tapings or something. But their big show is Redemption. If they do that live on the GWN and Twitch is like a second screen experience or something, I don't know how they're going to do that. But if they do it live on the GWN, then that's going to get people to buy that network for $9.99. What is it, $9, $7, $8?
No, it's like $8.99, I think.
$8.99. Okay, anyway, so they got that. So if you keep doing if you do monthly pay-per-views, which I think they could get back to the monthly pay-per-view. It seems like the way that they're going with their tapings is they're keeping those very low budget and not spending a lot of overhead. And I think that's another Scott D'Amore, Don Callis thing, because Scott D'Amore running his independent promotion, isn't it Border City Wrestling? Isn't that his?
Yep.
So him running that he knows that like Carney mentality. Okay, how can we save the most money? How can we spend the least amount of money? And that's what they're doing with their tapings. They're moving fans over to certain spots. They don't have the arenas full. They're doing small arenas, so that's just the way they do it. So if they do the monthly taping, I think it would be good. Pay-per-views, they could do that on GWN, and that would be a reason alone to get people to buy that network, and then you could still have that content on Twitch as well. So that's kind of where I see GWN going, and that's where they flourish. They get more independent promotions, like you said, and then do their live pay-per-views on there, and then the Twitch they can just have like stuff thrown out, like old content, and then those branded shows that they're doing. So I think if you can get a nice mix of all of that, I think you can make the GWN successful as well as the Twitch successful as well.
Really, really quick. Have you or not have you, but are you familiar with Fight TV?
Yes, I follow them on. I think they have a YouTube channel.
They do have a YouTube channel, but they're really known for their app.
Oh, that's right. And I know what you're talking about. The Fight TV one with the MMA pro wrestling live streaming. Yeah. That's where you could watch. Yeah, you could watch the. I remember you could watch Impact Wrestling or GW. What did they have on there? They had Wrestle Kingdom on there before.
Impact Wrestling Redemption is going to be live on Fight TV for $34.99. Okay, which is cool, I guess. I don't know. But for me, what I'm starting to realize, it's 2018. We are in the streaming era. So what Impact needs to do is not stream their pay-per-view on Fight TV. They need to put it on Twitch or GWN. One or the other. Make it inexpensive, make it high quality, and win us back. Because we have left Impact Wrestling for companies like ROH, for companies like WCPW, or now known as Defiant Wrestling. We've left Impact Wrestling for New Japan or WWE. We've left them. They need to bring us back. I cannot understand how somebody would pay $34.99 for their first live pay-per-view in several months, maybe even a year. But it's okay because I have a theory about TNA Impact Wrestling right now that could potentially change the world.
Okay, let me before we get into your theory, we're coming on down to the stretch here of Impact Wrestling. There's a lot going on here, but what I will say is that to your a rebuttal to your saying that they should not charge $34.99, I completely 100% agree. But I do think they should try and put their show on as many platforms as possible. I think the Fight Network is good for them. I think it'll get some people that, hey, I've been on the Fight Network. Why don't I see what's on? Oh, Impact Wrestling has a show. Let's do that. And also with the GWN, they should have it on every platform possible. The most ways that people can get it, because there are people that still like to buy pay-per-views, so you can get those people to buy it. There's people that want to watch on Twitch. If you're going to do Twitch, you have to sub to watch it, right? So you can have subscriber only mode during certain times on Twitch. So only subscribers could watch it. And then also on the GWN. So if you have that, you can watch it for free automatically. Like I said, you got to open up the avenues to get your name out there right now. I think they need to, like you said, put out a good grace to let people know, hey, this is a completely different company. We're gonna change things. Watch our show. What, pay $8.99 on GWN? Watch it. Yeah. Pay $4.99 on Twitch sub? Watch it. You know what? That's fine. We're not people are thinking, well, we're going to lose money if we don't charge $34.99. I think in the long run, they'll make more money doing it as many platforms as possible for as cheap as possible. Get those people to buy it that wouldn't necessarily buy it, but if I see it for $4.99, I'm going to tune in. $8.99, I'm going to tune in, because you know what? With WWE and the WWE Network, I never feel bad about watching a pay-per-view because I know it's only $9.99. Would I spend $40 on that? Probably not. Maybe Rumble, maybe WrestleMania. Other than that, I don't know. But that's the thing. You got to get the most people out there watching your product, and this is a good time to do it. And now, with Scott D'Amore and Don Callis coming in, there's a lot going on. We have talents getting releases like Chris Adonis, EC3, Bobby Lashley, Laurel Vaness. They've been released, which is big because EC3 was like a mainstay in the company for a while. Lashley was amazing in the company. He held all the titles at one point. And then you have, new talent coming in. We have Alberto Patron, who was recently coming in. He's a big get for them, I guess. We got Johnny Impact. We have Ethan Page, who's Chandler Park. We have Sami Callihan. We have Jimmy Jacobs. And then there's rumors of Rey Mysterio coming in. And that's the big thing, is that I feel like we're getting some of those top-tier indie guys coming over to Impact Wrestling now, and that's a good thing.
And it sounds like one thing that Mr. Ed Nordholm had said, he kind of came out and he changed how like contracts are going to work with Impact. So Impact's not going to own their gimmicks or stuff like that. They're going to allow them to take their gimmicks with them after their Impact.
Oh, that's a great idea, because again, another thing with like WWE trying to own everything, you see those guys that have succeeded, like an AJ Styles, who built his name on AJ Styles. They didn't bring him in and give him their own gimmick and give him their own name. I mean, yes, they're doing it with Ethan Page and Chandler Park, but that goes with the gimmick of Chandler Park, which I kind of actually like. The Park. I like the Joseph Parks and I like the Chandler Park, so that makes sense. But for them, like a guy that they don't need to own the gimmicks or the character. Like they just build off those independent names and bring them in, and then fans will say, oh, so that guy's over there? Let's watch. That's what I see. And like AJ Styles is a perfect example. Samoa Joe's a perfect example. Just bringing them in, let them be themselves, and it's kind of how they're going to succeed.
It kind of revolves around one big thing, and that's Impact becoming a good wrestling show, and kind of fitting in with all of these other different brands in the UK and Mexico and stuff like that. I don't think they're looking. I think with this new leadership, I don't think they're looking at becoming, WWE. I don't think they're looking at becoming something like that. Like, obviously, you're going to see a mix of, sports entertainment within Impact, but I think what you're really going to watch Impact for is to watch a really good wrestling show and not a really good storyline or something like that.
Yeah, and that was a big problem with the Hulk Hogan regime. Him and Bischoff came in and they're like, how can we be WWE? How can we take WWE down? And how can we be number one? And that's not the mentality to have, because when you do that, you hotshot yourselves on Monday nights. You try and do some stupid ideas to try and win the Monday Night Wars. They're trying to recreate that whole thing again. It's just dumb. You just need to be the first Impact Wrestling, like you said, and not try and compete with WWE, because in the end, you're not going to win if you try and be the big boys and compete with WWE. We've seen it.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is the perfect segue in for my theory, realistically.
Okay, before your theory, let me just footnote end this stuff real quick before we get done. I'm gonna get some tidbits in here, then we can go to your theory. Okay, so Don Callis came in, Scott D'Amore came in. If you're not familiar, Don Callis actually helped get the Chris Jericho Kenny Omega match together, right? So there's that. Now we're wondering if Don Callis could bridge the gap between New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact. Also, NWA, ran by Billy Corgan, had a match that took place in the Impact Zone that was on the NWA's YouTube channel. Austin Aries comes in. He's now in, spoiler alert, he wins the Grand Championship, and he is the Global Champion, and he has all these other championships. So now we get your crazy theory on what you think is going to happen, because honestly, with Don Callis being around, he could bridge a gap between New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there's a lot more that could happen. What are your thoughts? What's your ultimate theory here?
I think, and you got to understand, Tony, people have been listening to this all the way through, waiting for this theory. But I think this is the year, 2018, I think this is the year that Impact Wrestling gets it right. And the reason why, Don Callis, who could potentially bridge the gap between New Japan and Impact, can be the same guy who bridges the gap between Impact and WWE. In fact, my theory goes as far as saying that Impact's going to change their name. And that's because Don Callis is a smart guy. Don Callis has realized, look at all the stupid-ass stuff that's been around, right? Six-sided ring, the Grand Championship, all of these terrible ideas. And I think what they're going to do is, I think Redemption pay-per-view is the last pay-per-view under the Impact brand. In fact, I think Impact Wrestling can be the name of the company, right? Like WWE hosts Raw and SmackDown. I think Impact Wrestling will present a new television program. And I think with that being said, I think a lot of that is going to be between WWE and TNA working together. And you're probably asking, how does this happen? Well, I think it has such a tarnished reputation under the Impact name. You're constantly looking at Impact Wrestling Thursdays on Pop TV. I think WWE doesn't want to be noticeably working with a company like TNA just for all the negative stigma it has. But WWE will openly talk or showcase articles or stuff, that present ROH or New Japan, because the reputation of those companies historically are a lot better. I think at this point in time, I think Impact stops worrying about becoming a sports entertainment product. I think they go back to traditional wrestling television. And with that being said, I think they're really going to model their product after guys like Defiant Wrestling, ICW, Progress Wrestling, Evolve. I think that's what they're looking at becoming. And I think in a way they're going to build a feeder system, right? Guys like EC3 and Lashley leaving Impact, even though they were the biggest stars of Impact Wrestling. Impact has the opportunity to re-sign them. It's bullshit if anybody says they couldn't. So I think Impact has the ability to work with WWE, and I think they will. And I think we're going to see this open relationship, this open pool of Impact Wrestling working with WWE. In fact, I think Impact goes as far as selling their tape library to WWE. I think after April 22nd, I think that the days of Impact Wrestling are dead. And I think Impact Wrestling presents whatever show they want to call it, whatever they want to make it. I think they have the ability right then and there to become a open wrestling show, which is why they don't want to hold back gimmicks, which is why they want their wrestlers to compete in other places. It's no secret at Royal Rumble, we are probably going to see the return of Bobby Lashley or Ethan Carter III. We might even see Chris Masters return to WWE. Who knows? You never know, especially with NXT and WrestleMania weekend in Philly. There's so many things that can potentially happen. Obviously, there's rumors of Laurel Van Ness, who, by the way, she blocked me for no reason on Twitter. But, like, I'm just being honest. My theory is that the Impact Wrestling brand will officially die. And I think something new is born. And the reason why I think Impact goes this route is because if you look at WWE and New Japan, if you look at guys like ROH, Defiant Wrestling, Progress, they are great shows. And they're all great for different reasons. And the leadership under Impact needs to take some of that. They need to take some of that. They need to run with it. They need to grab that ball and they need to run with it. And it's for the same reason that those title belts are going away. April 22nd, there will be new title belts with Impact Wrestling. And I think the redemption name is very significant because this is when Impact Wrestling as a company will redeem themselves. Why are they going from 6 sides to 4 sides? Because 6 sides, 6-sided rings in the United States was always synonymous. It's always been synonymous with the Impact brand. In fact, if you look into House of Hardcore match, spoiler alert, sorry guys, you're getting a spoiler alert, House of Hardcore match at Impact Redemption. Tommy Dreamer is involved. Tommy Dreamer probably bridged Impact Wrestling and Twitch. Why? Because House of Hardcore has a great wrestling show. Impact Wrestling wants to model their product after these guys. And at the end of the day, we will see WWE and this new Anthem Pro Wrestling company. Maybe it's called Amazon Wrestling Federation. Who knows what they call it? Who gives a shit what they call it? The name just needs to go away. Get rid of the blue. Get rid of the blue ropes, the blue ring. Go away from that. And that's why they've taped so many episodes in advance. Okay? Austin Aries returned to Impact. He's holding multiple championship belts, IPW and Defiant Wrestling and all these different companies. He's holding like 6-7 belts. He left WWE, went back to Impact. Why is he going to be the big guy for Impact Wrestling? Because he knows how to be a champion. And he's going to be the guy along with Al Patron, Johnny Impact, Eli Drake. Another spoiler alert, former WCW and WWE legend Scott Steiner coming back to Impact. Why? Because it's going to be a great wrestling show. And therefore, you're going to see the little guys leave and some of the bigger guys leave as well. But you're going to see more guys coming in. Non-exclusive contracts because there's no need for them anymore. And they're going to produce good wrestling shows. It's going to be under a new name, new belt, and a new reputation will be born. And all of that negativity that we gave Ed Nordholm for being such a piece of for helping or not helping the Hardy situation. We're going to love this guy. Because he's going to do what John Garbuick, Dutch Mantel, and all these other guys couldn't do with Impact. See, we forgot to talk about Dutch Mantel. Dutch Mantel left Impact Wrestling. He's gone. He got fired. A lot of people have left this company. The company is in a brand new era. And I promise you, if you bring Rey Mysterio into Impact Wrestling and you start bringing in all these big names, by the way, Chris Jericho is even rumored to go to Impact Wrestling. You think this stuff is acceptable by Vince McMahon? Do you think it's acceptable by New Japan? No, it's just going to be a glorified indie wrestling show with a television deal, and even that may go away. So I think it's very easy to say, to conclude my theory, 2018 is going to be a brand new year for Impact Wrestling. It's going to be such a great year for Impact Wrestling that I'm no longer able to revert back to my gimmick of trashing them. Because right now, until these guys give me no reason to trust them, I'm going to support their product. We've been let down way too many times in the past by Impact. But we have different management. So I can't trash them and say, this is not going to work for me. Now, I promise you, as part of this show, as part of the OMG podcast, if Impact Wrestling slips up and they do not change and they do not become a better wrestling company and they go back to the roots of being a shitty pro wrestling product, then I will be very vocal about it. Because that's why people watch OMG Wrestling. We are going to give you opinions that maybe you disagree or don't disagree with. Like, you might agree, you may not. I really don't care if you do. We're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it true and honest. And honestly, 2018, I think, is the year that we see Impact, TNA Impact specifically, go to WWE. Don Callis knows what's up. Scott D'Amore knows that tape library, they know deep down inside that tape library, as iconic as it is, you have to go as far away as possible from that brand. You want no affiliation with Impact. You do not want affiliation with that name. It's tarnished. But it's okay because the right guys are in charge right now. So I'll just leave it at that.
Then we could see if Ed Nordholm gives the power to Scott D'Amore and Don Callis. We know Don Callis has a great reputation in the wrestling business. One of the things, if you listen to Chris Jericho's podcast with Don Callis says he doesn't really lie. He tells it straight down how it should be. So he's got no investment in this or that or this. He just throws the facts out there. I think that if Don Callis can work with New Japan and get Chris Jericho from the WWE to go over there, and Vince McMahon realizes, because Chris Jericho said it, Vince said, go do it. When you come back to WWE, you're going to be even better. And that's the thing. Don Callis knew that if he could make this match happen, it would be a big step in pro wrestling. And I think now, more than ever, we could see that gap being bridged with Impact Wrestling. If they can do what you said they could do and get that bad stigma out of there and redeem themselves at Redemption, we might have a good chance that Impact Wrestling could be the best year it's ever been if they do a new rebranding, new titles, and move on from there. So I will have to agree. I will not hit the head anymore about Impact Wrestling. We're going to end it there and, you know what, segue over to WWE a little bit. I don't know how long the show is going to be, but I think I'm in it for the long haul. What about you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, we took a lot of notes, and I got to be honest, we have some really, really good notes for WWE. So,
we have a bunch of WWE stuff to talk about. But before we get into all of that, I have to let you guys know about the Pizza Party Pro. That's a way that you guys can support us monetarily and help keep this show running. If you go to pro.tony.pizza, check out all the awesome things we have. We have a bunch of awesome rewards over there that will help you support this show in the long run. What we are going to be doing is adding more rewards and adding early access to some of the content that you love, including the OMG Wrestling Podcast. I could explain a lot more, but I just suggest you go over to pro.tony.pizza right now. So I guess that's where we will segue over to WWE. So first off, on our list of things we have discussions here, we have Paige retiring. It is not officially known that Paige is retiring, but she did hurt herself in a scary incident at a house show live event, and Paige is actually not being able to compete at the Royal Rumble match itself. Are they going to give her a big send-off? What's the deal going to be here? Maybe they're going to make her wait until, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Paige getting injured and all that?
I think the report is fake, actually. Probably not the most popular opinion. But yeah, I mean, just because a report comes out about Paige retiring, I don't think it's fair to say that it's true. More specifically, you just have to really look at it from this perspective of Paige. They haven't come off with the retirement speech. And I guarantee, a lot of that also has to do with her age, being young, and I'm sure it's more of like an emotional thing. But at the same time, too, how amazing would it be for Paige to eventually return? It's not unlike WWE to keep people away from TV or, exaggerate certain stories, to bring people back, make them look like superheroes. I think Paige returns to WWE at some point. Maybe she's out of the Royal Rumble. Maybe she is retired. Who knows? But until she utters the words that she has done, I don't believe it. In fact, she also tweeted that she is going to make 2018. Geez, I can't talk. Paige is going to make the year of 2018 one of the best years. So, who knows what that means? But I guarantee you, we have not seen the last of Paige. I just don't believe it. I don't want to believe it. We heard the same thing about Sheamus. We covered it on the Slam. And what it really came down to is Sheamus is still there. So, and these were reports that Sheamus had also been forced to retire. So until we get that exact confirmation, she's still a WWE superstar in my books.
Also with her injury, we have Jason Jordan was injured, so he is going to be he was kind of kept off of Monday Night Raw, really. But I think he's cleared to wrestle, so there's no issue there. And Samoa Joe was injured, so he will not be at the Royal Rumble, right? Isn't that correct? He was one of my odds-on favorites to win this match, but it looks like he's not even going to be in the Royal Rumble itself at this current time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, it doesn't sound like it's too bad of an injury. They're saying that he should be good in time for WrestleMania, probably a lot sooner. Samoa Joe, I feel like he's just kind of had a bad break recently with like injuries and stuff. So Jason Jordan, Samoa Joe, hopefully, regardless if you guys like them or not, hopefully these injuries aren't too serious and hopefully, they get back into the ring. Especially Royal Rumble is just such a fun match to watch. And it always makes you curious to see what they would do. Is Jason Jordan one of those guys that, kind of like the Maven situation, right? Maven gets eliminated by Undertaker, or he eliminates the Undertaker, I'm sorry. It just makes me think that maybe that's something they would do with Jason Jordan. And, of course, Samoa Joe is somebody that everybody could see in the final two of the Rumble, potentially winning the Rumble. So, hopefully these guys come back and they come back strong, and hopefully they're not away from our TV screens for a while. I think they've been doing a really good job, actually, both of them, more specifically,
I'm going to have to say that this is this injury plague that they have right now a little bit. I think this probably will have to be, I guess we chalk it up as the live event schedules. I think they need to tone down what they're doing at their live events. I know they do cage matches. They sometimes use tables. They do all these crazy things at live events to sell tickets to their live events. I get that. They have to run live events. I understand that. But when you have high-profile guys like Samoa Joe and Paige getting injured, and then you find out, oh, well, some of it's at live events, maybe doing the live events and doing all the crazy stuff at the live events isn't the best way to do it. I mean, I think I saw Dean Ambrose in like a hardcore match at a SmackDown live event one time, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is he doing all this crazy stuff at a live event when there's a pay-per-view coming up in like a week or two? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I think that what needs to happen is that they need to tone down some of the crazy stuff they're doing at these live events, because with talent getting injured, it's not the smartest idea to go all out at the live events. I think you should take it easy, phone it in at live events, do some more comedy stuff, have some fun, and they can prevent those people from getting injured. I don't know if you agree or disagree with me on that.
No, I agree fully, but the problem that I have with this is you say this, but you were probably one of the fans, just like me, who marked out when the curb stomp returned.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say, though, that move could potentially harm somebody in a very, very big way?
Yes, but I don't think it has actually harmed anybody yet.
Hypocrisy. I get it.
Yeah, but I don't think it actually does any damage yet. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's cleared. Maybe it's one of those moves that's back in the WWE. The Styles Clash was banned for a while, and then it came back, and maybe the curb stomp's back. Who knows? I mean, they kind of ended Raw on a weird note with having him like hold his head and look kind of concussed at the end of Monday Night Raw, so maybe they're going off of that, the curb stomp. Maybe Seth Rollins wasn't supposed to do it, and he did it anyway. You know what I mean? I don't know. We haven't heard that yet, but yeah, I think injuries are bad in any sport. So if you can minimize those injuries, that's the best way to do it, I think. So we'll see what comes out of it. But with WWE, we have some Performance Center hires that we want to talk about, which is very interesting because these names are top independent names, and we have War Machine and Ricochet are both going to be reporting to the Performance Center, and I'm excited for Ricochet to be at the Performance Center.
Oh, yeah, and I think with Ricochet, the way that I really want to see this happen. I want NXT takeover in Philly. I just want them to do what they did with Drew McIntyre, right? Have him in the crowd. Oh my gosh, who do we have here? Do you know who we have in our live attendance today?
That's Prince Puma from Lucha Underground.
No, that's actually Trevor Mann. Do you know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
I'm just being a smark. That's Ricochet's real name.
Oh, okay. You are smart. Okay,
so
I got
funny.
it. Yeah, I didn't know that. I actually saw Ricochet versus Amazing Red. Oh my gosh, that match was great. In New York.
Was it at a House of not
House of Glory.
House of Hardcore, but House of Glory?
It was good. It was great. Anytime I've seen Ricochet, he's awesome. So it's good for him to go into WWE. Question for you though: War Machine and Ricochet, are they going to go to the main roster, or do you see them going to NXT first?
I think honestly at this point, I think both of them go to NXT, but that's because there is a lot of call-ups that we should be expecting soon. With WrestleMania season, I can only speak on what I personally predict, but Sanity, Authors of Pain, their call-ups have been way overdue. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to the main roster, and then I think when you have guys like Street Profits, and you have Tino Sabatelli and Riddick Moss, mm-hmm. you have Undisputed Era. And then, of course, War Machine, and there's some other tag teams down there.
Heavy Machinery's down there.
Yeah, Heavy Machinery. When you have teams like that, I think War Machine could go to the Performance Center. They could go to NXT. And honestly, it doesn't have to be a long run either. These are the kind of guys that they should just go to NXT just to kind of get a cool couple moments, Especially when you look at, WrestleMania weekend. Whatever they do in NXT would be far greater than what they do for some indie show.
Kind of like Kevin Owens. He wasn't down there too long, but he was down there for long enough to, kind of get his feel for the WWE, and then they called him up right away. That's kind of how I see it with these guys. I think it would be perfect. But with Ricochet, though, would it be a downgrade to put him in 205 Live?
No, I mean, I firmly believe a guy like him should be in 205 Live. But here's the thing. I know a lot of people will hate me for this, because this is just how the internet wrestling community thinks. 205 Live could be a really, really good show. They just got to stop with the entertainment stuff. It's not, to me, 205 Live has never been about storylines. I just want to see good wrestling matches. So Ricochet going to 205 Live, for me, I've talked about it before. I think it's fine. I think it works. I think he brings a lot of amazing stuff to that program. But Ricochet is kind of like a Finn Balor to me. These guys have what it takes. They're charismatic. They don't need to be there. So, honestly, if I'm WWE, it's a whole different conversation. But just get rid of the 205 Live show and make the cruiserweights mean something. That belt is a good-looking belt, and it's okay to have it on Raw and SmackDown.
What I think is if they do Ricochet, they could do it similar to Evan Bourne or a Kofi Kingston, where they could stand out in the tag division as well as have good main event type matches. I don't know. Both of them had great matches with Randy Orton, if you remember. Yeah, I remember we had thought at one point Kofi Kingston was going to go to the main event scene at one point, but he never did. So I think if Ricochet could get in there and find that WWE style, play the hard cam and learn the entrances and, all that simple stuff that you need to learn, I'm sure he'll get it down in no time. And then once he does, I think, he could either be, one of those tag team wrestlers, go to 205 Live, whatever it may be. I think he's going to succeed in WWE if they do it properly. I mean, if it's like a Triple H pet project, because you see Samoa Joe, he was one of those guys who I was kind of worried about. Is he going to succeed? Is he going to fail? Well, they have done a very great job with him and protected him 100%. Same with AJ Styles. They have done a great job and made him look awesome. And I think Ricochet could be on the same there. As far as contracts go in the WWE, though, we, I guess, can say that Ronda Rousey, the rumor going around right now is that she has signed with the WWE and a Royal Rumble debut is imminent for Ronda Rousey. Exciting, not exciting? What thoughts?
I think we've all known this for years, so it's not surprising. Am I excited about it? Of course. I don't care what anybody says. Women in pro wrestling have never been truly treated like they're real badasses. And Ronda Rousey proved in the UFC that she was a true badass. And if everybody's really excited about this women's division without such a big name, imagine what it's going to be like with Rousey winning the Rumble. So I don't care what people say. I don't care what people say at all. The only question mark I really have is because WWE seems to be doing something big with Shayna Baszler. Is that going to be part of the equation? Are they going to keep their affiliation? I think you Ronda Rousey. That's exciting, man.
I think you do. I think eventually Ronda Rousey, I don't know, if she needs a partner or something, she can get Shayna Baszler in there as well. And then you have, what's her name? Sonya Deville. Is that her name, right?
Yeah.
Get them to have a match together or something. I don't know how they actually want to do this. With Ronda Rousey, I'm not sure what kind of training she's gotten in the pro wrestling avenue. I think that she's a great entertainer. She carries herself well. She did the stuff at WrestleMania. She's a big draw. I think there's potential for her to skyrocket whatever. I think her and Charlotte would be a cool match, depending on how Ronda Rousey performs in the match. And I think a Royal Rumble debut would be huge. Put her in at number 30. She doesn't have to do a lot if she's still green, if she's not ready. She doesn't have to win the Rumble. And then if somebody actually eliminated her, what a moment for that person it would be, eliminating Ronda Rousey. And for the first ever women's Rumble match, like, that's big.
I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off. Who in the hell would ever debut in the Royal Rumble at 30 only to lose the match?
It's happened before.
Why would Ronda Rousey do that? The biggest name outside of WWE, who happens to be a legitimate badass. I don't care about her last 2 losses in the UFC. She's a legitimate badass, okay? Legitimate badass who also happens to be female. The females in WWE have been really, really good these last few years. That's the reason why there's a women's revolution, okay? But with that being said, who is a bigger draw right now to the entire world? Charlotte Flair, who is the daughter of Ric Flair, or Ronda Rousey, former world champion in UFC, in a legitimate, true fighting combat sport? If Ronda Rousey gets tossed over the rope and does not win that match, I promise you right now, it does not matter whatsoever. I cannot see WWE bouncing back.
Oh, come on! Now you're just going over the top. You're just nitpicking a nitpick because a Royal Rumble doesn't mean as much as you think it does. It's not the be-all, end-all. They've had superstars get eliminated. You can have some shenanigans go on where she still looks good after the fact, and then she can start a program with whoever eliminates her in the Rumble, so she doesn't have to get hot-shotted for the women's title. I think having her win the Rumble is kind of you better perform at WrestleMania in the best possible performance of your entire life, or it's sink or swim. So if she wins the Rumble, she has to have an amazing match at WrestleMania. And if she's not up in the pro wrestling business as an amazing athlete, yes, she is great in UFC. Yes, awesome at MMA. But does that translate over to WWE? I don't know. We'll have to see. The thing with her is, though, she doesn't need to win the Rumble because she's already a big enough name. She can go ahead and have a few programs with some people, kind of similar to Shinsuke Nakamura. They did him not the best, but you could have him have some smaller programs with some athletes to build her up until she's actually ready for the championship. I don't think you have her win the Rumble on her first outing, and I think you're dumb if you do. I think there's many opportunities for her to grow in the WWE. She's still going to be a huge name at WrestleMania. There's going to be a huge women's match at WrestleMania. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of women. There's 30 of them in the Rumble match. There's going to be multiple women's match at WrestleMania. So I think that you're wrong saying she needs to win, and I am 100% positive that she will do great in WWE.
I'm appalled.
She doesn't need to have a main event at WrestleMania for the women's championship. She can do fine if she's not for that title right away. I don't think you hot shot her right away. Nope.
Disgusting.
That's the way I see it, and that's where I'm going to end it.
2 years, people have been waiting for Ronda Rousey to show up in the WWE. All that hype, all that want, all of that feeling of wanting Ronda to finally come to the WWE, and sure enough, Alicia Fox throws her over the top.
Alicia Fox, no,
bro. Okay. Listen, we will watch the Royal Rumble, and you will go back to this podcast and realize that everything I'm telling you is so accurate.
Okay, number one, Alicia Fox is not going to throw over, but you're going to see the winner of the Royal Rumble, Asuka, throw her over. What a better name than Asuka to eliminate Ronda Rousey, put Asuka over as the best wrestler in WWE because she eliminated Ronda Rousey. Then you can have a program with Asuka and Ronda. Come on. You're telling me.
To be honest, can I just add one thing to this really quick?
Yeah. You want Alicia Fox to be main eventing WrestleMania? Is that what you just said?
No, but Asuka's not winning the Royal Rumble. In fact, Asuka's not even going to compete in the Royal Rumble. Because Paige, who is not competing in the Royal Rumble, will have absolution take out Asuka, because you cannot have Asuka, who has not lost a match in the WWE, compete in a match to win a world championship belt, to get hot shotted to the title route, to the title belt. She can't get hot shotted there, right? So if you have Asuka in this Royal Rumble and she loses this Royal Rumble to Ronda Rousey, which will happen, Ronda Rousey will win this Royal Rumble. If Asuka is in this match, you just killed off Asuka for a superstar like with Ronda Rousey, and that is not acceptable. So if you're the WWE,
newsflash, she's already going to lose in the Mixed Match Challenge tournament, so her streak is going to be over before the Rumble anyway. And 2, Ronda Rousey, don't hotshot her. I'm telling you. We can sit here all day and we can talk about goods and bads and uglies of this. I think that Asuka and Ronda Rousey is the ultimate program they're going to go for the women's championship, and it'll be great when it happens, and we're all going to love it.
Unbelievable.
And we can all say that Ronda Rousey should have won the Rumble and Asuka shouldn't even have been in it because she looked whatever. It's all about singles matches for Ronda Rousey, and if she can't perform in singles matches, then it's just not going to be the best to have her win the Rumble. You know, on her first outing, debut, win it all. Is she that ready? I don't know. I'm just not sure. We'll have to wait and see. And Asuka winning the Rumble this year. Alicia Fox is going to eliminate Ronda Rousey. No, that's not going to happen. I don't know where you ever thought I said Alicia Fox. It's not going to happen. It's going to be like Gail Kim or something, eliminate Ronda, or Trish Stratus, or
unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable.
Or
just skip the topic because I am frustrated with you.
Okay. Anyway, Ronda Rousey's probably honestly going to debut in the Rumble, whether she wins, loses, or whatever. That's up to Ango to get over eventually. But also at the Royal Rumble, we had the U.S. title finals for the new U.S. Championship after Dolph Ziggler dropped the belt in the middle of the ring. That is no longer going to happen. It's going to happen on the SmackDown before the Royal Rumble. Is this good or bad, Ango? Pulling that match from the Royal Rumble.
No, it's okay with me because the Royal Rumble's got too much stuff going on. I feel like whatever they have happening for this belt is actually pretty big. I feel like they're going to have like a pretty big, culmination of things happening. So I think making the finals and the final U.S. title match, I think having that on SmackDown as like the main event would be perfect. I think.
Do you think that changes the outcome of the men's Royal Rumble match now that they're not doing that title match there because they don't want to have the guy who goes and fights for the U.S. title have to wrestle and then go in the Rumble match, So I'm wondering if that's going to change what the outcome of the Rumble could possibly be.
I mean, that's possible. I think, it really depends what they do with Ziggler. I think Ziggler is the wild card, right? I think, he relinquished his belt, so to say. Does he win the Rumble? I personally don't think so, but is it possible? Yeah. So, I guess Ziggler is the wild card, and whatever they decide to do, maybe they just decide to give the belt to Mojo Rawley on a SmackDown, or maybe they give it to like Xavier Woods or Ginger, right? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe like I know before there was some fantasy booking. Oh, Ziggler is going to come back, debut a new title, and say, "Hey, this tournament, blah 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 blah. I never fully relinquished the belt, yada yada yada." I think that is whole like totally long gone. I think that whole idea is gone. So I think whatever they have planned for SmackDown instead of Royal Rumble would pretty much just become an afterthought on such a big pay-per-view.
I think honestly with the U.S. title match, they just pulled it for time, honestly, because they have the women's Rumble match and the men's Rumble match. So I think they probably just pulled that for time itself, and to have a big coronation at the main event of SmackDown, like you said, would be great. So, and then Ziggler, I think that was his whole thing. He always wanted to get to the top of the mountain. He was getting overlooked. What better way than to drop that U.S. title and focus on the Rumble match itself? Like you said, he's the wild card to win it. If it's going to happen, I don't know. There's some other thoughts that we have on the Rumble, like who could possibly be winning it. I mean, I thought Shinsuke Nakamura could be a top contender to win that and fight AJ Styles at Mania. I had Joe up there on my list. John Cena maybe, because he's got to do a big thing at WrestleMania. I don't know. Any other thoughts on who's going to take it all at the Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Have you been on Twitter at all today?
Briefly. I haven't checked in like the last hour or so, but yeah.
Okay. So I just want to read to you my theory.
Okay.
We saw the curb stomp return, right?
Right.
Yesterday on Raw.
The blackout or whatever it's called.
Yeah, whatever they call it. Now, the reason why this move got banned in the first place is because WWE, obviously, they were trying to stop a lot of press from, like, the negative press that comes with concussions and whatever, all that stuff.
Right.
CTE. And then, of course, now 2 things have come out since, this past week. Daniel Bryan had made a tweet about him and AJ Styles at ROH, okay? He's like, they showed ROH uploaded a throwback video, which, by the way, I think WWE had them do this on purpose. But ROH uploaded this video saying Bryan Danielson versus AJ Styles. Daniel Bryan came out and said, "Oh my gosh, we should do it again, blah, 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 blah. But this time I won't break your nose." And then all of a sudden, the curb stomp comes back. AJ Styles is the current WWE title holder. And Daniel Bryan now holds the odds for winning the WWE Royal Rumble. I don't think it's any secret. I think you mentioned Dolph Ziggler. Imagine a guy like Dolph Ziggler who's tried so hard to get to the top, but he couldn't because the general manager inserted himself into the Royal Rumble and won the match. Stole his moment. Guys like Dolph Ziggler, oh, you know what? You're not clear to wrestle. You're not clear to be the star. You can't do this. You're not allowed to wrestle. You have too many concussions. But as the boss, you break the rules, and you're taking time and money and fame out of my pockets and out of my hands because you want to be a champion. Because you're so addicted to wrestling, you had to put yourself in that position because that's what general managers do. And I think Daniel Bryan breaks away from being a general manager. 100%, I firmly believe WWE would have not brought back that curb stomp unless they knew Daniel Bryan was coming back. Just like I don't think ROH would have that belt. Right? That belt. I'm sorry. ROH wouldn't have that video. And AJ Styles wouldn't have that belt. The Jinder Mahal project was not a failure. People thought it was going to be a failure because, Jinder Mahal. But you sure as hell know at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, you do not want to see Jinder Mahal versus Daniel Bryan. But I firmly believe Daniel Bryan is clear to wrestle. There's a reason why he's been talking about it publicly. There's a reason why he's on radio stations talking about it. And there's a reason why Daniel Bryan keeps telling people, hey, if I do not wrestle for WWE, I am not re-signing with the WWE. Because now we're talking about Daniel Bryan leaving, going to Japan, ROH, Impact, Evolve, whatever it may be, just so we can see him wrestle. That's not going to happen. Daniel Bryan's going to win the Royal Rumble match. Shane McMahon is going to create a huge storyline because Shane McMahon is going to say, hey, you're the general manager. You're not allowed to do this stuff. You're not cleared to wrestle. Maybe they strip his championship match opportunity. Who knows what they decide to do? Right? You said it before. A lot of shenanigans happen. But the betting odds are right now on Daniel Bryan. We've seen the tweets. We've seen ROH. And now we see my theory is very, very, very logical. And I know it's going to happen. I know Daniel Bryan's going to win that Royal Rumble. And imagine the amount of superstars that are going to hate on Daniel Bryan. I talked about it on the Slam, Tony. I had an episode of the Slam where I was with Nukes and I said, do you think WWE leaks fake stories for PR reasons? Again, Daniel Bryan on Rosenberg's Hot 97 radio station with Ebro in the morning. I will not wrestle, or I will not sign with WWE unless I wrestle with WWE. I do not want to be a general manager. I'm addicted to wrestling. If WWE clears me, then I will wrestle for WWE. I will re-sign with WWE. Of course, WWE is very, very, very strict on what these wrestlers could come out and say on the public. And guess what? Everybody's talking about it. There was a report that Daniel Bryan is going to be turned heel to lose popularity so that way WWE can drain all his popularity before he leaves the WWE. Not going to happen. That will not happen. Daniel Bryan's winning the 2018 Royal Rumble. And AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan, the match nobody expected to ever happen in a WWE WrestleMania pay-per-view. It will happen, and I will be there to watch it. And I can't wait to see the look on everybody's faces when, after they leave a comment on this, and they say, oh my God, Ango's an idiot. When I see those faces and those tweets and those comments when Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble, I just want everybody to follow me on Twitter and verify me, so that way they know I am the shit.
All right. Well, hot takes from Ango. If you want to follow him at Tango with Ango, you get more hot takes. All right. Daniel Bryan, he thinks, is winning this Royal Rumble this year. I think he's losing his marbles here, but we'll have to see if he's right. I will eat my hat live on camera, my actual hat that I'm wearing right now. It's a plain black hat, and I will eat it on camera if Daniel Bryan wins and fights AJ Styles at WrestleMania. If that happens, I'll make a video of me eating my hat. I will literally eat my hat. I will take a fork and a knife. I will cut it up. I will eat it with some hot sauce. That's going to happen. If Ango's hot takes come true. Whew. All right, let's move on to some more news here. We're coming down here. I think we want to keep this about an hour and a half type show. Sounds about a good format for me. So we got Goldberg going in the Hall of Fame. Quick thought, good or bad? Ango, I say this is good. It was inevitable. That was my first thought for this year's Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, it's really good thing. There has been rumors that Goldberg will have a WrestleMania match. With him being in the Hall of Fame, I think that'd be really cool. To be honest, just one more match, WrestleMania. I do think this is a good thing, and I think it allows for John Cena versus Undertaker. So I think that kind of solidifies that. Goldberg's great. I don't know anybody who really hated his last run. I know a lot of people didn't expect much, and I think that kind of helped him. So I think if that was his last match and his last program with the WWE, he did it on good terms, and he did a great job. So definitely Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of people complained about his last reign, but honestly, if you look back, it was way more entertaining than Kevin Owens' reign. Just going to say that. I'll probably get heat for it, but I still think Goldberg had a great Universal title reign. I think it was great send-off. His son got to see him wrestle, finally go in. I think either like Eric Bischoff or, maybe like a DDP or probably, so those are the couple two that I see would induct him, would be an Eric Bischoff or a DDP, putting Goldberg in that Hall of Fame.
Somebody WCW related, so I could see both of those. Yeah, it'd be really cool to hear, I'm back.
He'll be there on Raw 25. I think so. For Raw 25, we'll see Eric Bischoff. I think he's on there. I think he's probably going to be on there. And before we talk about Raw 25, I want to talk about The Undertaker and John Cena. You mentioned it previously at WrestleMania. I think, I've made a video on it. We've talked about it for a while here, and we're the first ones to really solidify that as the match that's going to happen at WrestleMania, and I think it is. Cena and Taker. I think last year they wanted Taker to have a nice send-off with Roman Reigns, but Roman is not a John Cena. Roman cannot carry Taker like he needs to be carried to look like a quality match. And I think they expected more from Taker than they got. And I think putting him in John Cena, they both know when to take the breaks, take the breathers, and stuff like that, where Roman Reigns isn't as seasoned as a John Cena. So I think Cena and Taker, this is the last big dream match besides Sting and Taker, which I don't know that Sting will get in there to wrestle with Taker because it wouldn't be as good, but I think Cena and Taker is the last all right, this is Taker's final match. I'm done. That's what I see it.
I just want to add this really quick, and it really, really sucks, man. It really sucks because I really, really want Sting versus Taker. And part of me just says at Raw 25, that's the way you set it up, is Sting interrupting Taker. But who knows, man? WWE is so unpredictable. I know right now the Cena and Taker thing, we've kind of talked about it, so to me it sounds like it's happening. But I can't have Undertaker lose a match. And I feel like if you put Taker with Cena, Cena's going to win. And I feel like if you put Taker with Sting, Sting is going to lose. So, bro, I'm just heartbroken. I hate thinking about this because I think Sting versus Taker, regardless of the match quality, is just something about the intensity level at Mania. I know I'm going to be there, and I know I'm going to be sitting in the stands with goosebumps. And that's the biggest dream match that's never happened. And I don't think anything in this world, professional wrestling-wise, will ever be anything bigger than that.
Right, and I think if Cena doesn't fight Taker at WrestleMania, then he'll probably get a WWE Championship match and win his, 17th time? 18th time? 17th time? He'd beat Ric Flair's record. So I think if Cena doesn't have that WrestleMania match with Taker, he's going to win the championship at WrestleMania and beat Ric Flair's record. Those are the only two options for John Cena's outcome I see there. So, and then moving on, we have Raw 25 coming up. A lot of big names are announced for it. One of the biggest names is not going to be there. That is Hulk Hogan. He came out on Twitter and said, I am not going to be at Raw 25. They did, however, mention Hulk Hogan. If you watch the best 25 moments of Monday Night Raw, they had Hulk Hogan's name mentioned. And interesting enough, number 2 moment on that top 25 list was the CM Punk pipe bomb, which is very interesting. Could we see CM Punk at Raw 25, the Royal Rumble, and possibly WrestleMania? Is that an option at all?
Oh,
I don't
know. I don't know about that one.
I mean, as you know, Vince McMahon is one of those guys that never holds a grudge for very long. He brought back Hulk Hogan after all that stuff went down. He brought back Stone Cold Steve Austin after he took his ball and went home. I mean, there was a legal battle with CM Punk and WWE, but ultimately it's up to CM Punk if he wants to. I mean, what a bigger pop that would be for him to come back in, the Royal Rumble, or even just make an appearance on Raw 25. I don't think they're going to, but it would be fun to see. Somebody else who was unlikely to be at Raw 25, we thought, wait, he just wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom, and that is Chris Jericho is actually going to be there. With Chris Jericho going to New Japan Pro Wrestling, one of the clauses in his contract was that he wasn't exclusive to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I guess what happened was WWE just announced Chris Jericho was going to be on Raw, and Chris Jericho was like, yeah, I never confirmed with them I was going to be on Raw, but I will be on Raw. So Jericho is going to be at Raw 25, if I'm correct on how that all played out, right?
Yeah, and I think Chris Jericho, I mean, he's been pretty open about the whole thing. Vince allowing him to do his thing. I mean, go for it. Let's see what happens. We kept talking about that gap between Impact and New Japan. Who knows? Maybe there's something with New Japan and WWE. You just never know.
Would we see Kenny Omega coming in the Royal Rumble match? No, I don't know. That would be some fantasy thing that could happen. That would be crazy if that would actually go down that way. But
well, don't ever forget the reaction Roman Reigns had when AJ Styles made his debut. Greatest surprise entrance. Like, Roman Reigns played off that so well. So, you never know, man. The Baylor Club is alive and well. You never know what can happen.
That is true. So that's going to be it for this thus far. Ango's Hot Takes. More at Tango with Ango on Twitter if you want to follow him. All on social media. I'm at TonyPizzaGuy. I have a Twitter account. I do have an Instagram. I got some hot pictures up there. If you want to go ahead and follow me on Instagram, I got all those filters. The Photoshop, the Lightroom, the Sony A6 300. You should definitely get over there and follow me on Instagram and Twitch as well. We do stuff over there. There's a lot of things going on now. I don't even know where to end this episode, Ango. I think I'll let you end it with a hot take again. I'm tired of your
no hot takes. Ending off the show, I think we said a lot of good stuff. And of course, my big thing is just if you guys enjoy the OMG podcast, this is what we like to do. Of course, we kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show, we kind of just said whatever the hell we felt like saying. So I can't wait to do more of these. And as always, it's a pleasure. So we will see you guys on the next episode of the OMG Wrestling Podcast.
And don't forget, before we close it out here, we are on iTunes, eventually YouTube. We are, of course, if you have the YouTube Music app, one of the cool things is you can actually listen to our podcast on the YouTube Music app, and you don't have to have the app open, so you can listen to it in the background, all that fun stuff. So that's pretty cool. If you have YouTube Red, you can listen to the podcast, have your thing closed, and that how it works. How it works, background play and stuff like that. Soon to be on Stitcher, Podcast One, Westwood One. No, I'm just kidding. I don't just naming things off, but we'll see. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back every Tuesday with the OMG Wrestling Podcast.